Talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut! Did you fuck with me?
Despite being all of 3 feet tall, you do not fuck with the Chuck. Despite his small stature, Chucky is one murderous little bastard. Whether it's chasing down Andy Barclay and trying to possess him, or shacking up with Tiffany and having a demonic spawn, there's a lot going on with this franchise. And wait, there are multiple of him? Jesus Christ, we've got a lot to break down, so join us as we tell you what the f you need to know about the Child's Play series.
I am Chucky, the killer doll, and I dig it!
Child's Play, otherwise known as the Chucky series, plays off a very simple imaginative thought. What if your doll came to life? Although obviously not quite as simple as that, screenwriter Don Mancini took the idea and ran with it after being haunted by the idea as a child. Then in the 80s, with the massive success of toys such as Teddy Ruxpin, the concept looked like it would make a killing at the box office. Producer David Kirshner was also obsessed with the concept of a killer doll after having read The Dollhouse Murders. So the two combined forces. Mancini developed the doll into one with personality. But what if the doll wasn't friendly? In fact, what if he was so evil that he would actually kill people? Originally titled Batteries Not Included, Mancini's original script involved a doll that was filled with fake blood. When played with roughly, the doll would bleed, signaling to the child to play nicer. But when the doll's blood mixes with his young owner, the doll begins targeting those that treat the boy poorly. It's an interesting idea, but doesn't really stand up to criticism. United Artists purchased the script after seeing that it had great franchise potential. I mean, this was the mid-80s after all, with giants such as Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, and Michael Myers all making a play for the box office with their respective franchises. While United Artists liked the concept, they did not like the script, bringing in John LaFia to do a rewrite. His draft would serve to make Andy more likable, and the concept of Chucky being filled with fake blood was scrapped. I mean, what parents in their right mind would buy a doll filled with blood? So LaFia changed that aspect, adding in serial killer Charles Lee Ray, aka Chucky. After a shootout with a cop hot on his tail, Chucky transfers his soul into that of a doll, aptly titled The Good Guy Doll. Tom Holland, no, not that Tom Holland, this Tom Holland, director of The Incredible Fright Night, took on the directing gig after a recommendation from Steven Spielberg himself. God damn. Kevin Yeager designed the doll and gave us all the wonderful practical movements we've grown to know Chucky for. The doll changes over the course of the film, becoming more human, his hairline even receding a bit. It's genuinely amazing how much Yeager was able to accomplish here. But even still, the subject of who could play the voice of Chucky loomed large. Chucky's casting was extremely important and could have been make or break for the film. Producers toyed with the idea of just having Chucky voiced by preset voice commands like other toys in the 80s, but that was deemed too limiting. Thankfully, after quite the search, including using Jessica Walter as Chucky's original voice, Brad Dourif gained the role, and the rest is history. He is Chucky, and is almost as synonymous to the character as Robert Englund is to Freddy Krueger. How appropriate, given that Chucky is a wisecracker just like Freddy.
Nothing like a strangulation to get the circulation going.
So much of the enjoyment from watching these films is through Chucky, and the insane hijinks he gets up to. Sure, most of those hijinks involve killing, but hey, entertainment comes in all forms.
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end.
The film finally started production in 1988 under the name Child's Play. Single mom Karen Barclay gets her son a used good guy doll for his birthday, but little does she know that due to voodoo magic, this good guy doll is inhabited with the soul of a serial killer, Charles Lee Ray. Chucky comes to find out that the only human body he can take over is the first person that he revealed himself to, Andy Barclay. So it's a cat and mouse chase as Chucky tries to get Andy, and his mom and this detective try and save the day. Eventually, Chucky gets burnt to a fucking crisp, and then shot.
You know what they say. You just can't keep a good guy down.
We're just gonna get this out of the way right now. Chucky is the absolute star of the show in every one of these movies. So while I'm not going to repeatedly say his name, just know he's the most memorable character of them all, no matter what the film. Then for this one, there's also Andy Barclay, his mom Karen Barclay, and Detective Mike Norris, who are all great.
You've been very naughty, Miss Kennewell.
2 years later, we received Child's Play 2, which saw young Andy in foster care. Courts have decided his mom is crazy due to the events of the last film. But what about Chucky? Well, this evil corporation decides to rebuild him in order to prove that there's no such thing as a killer doll. Seems like a great idea. Of course, Chucky kills everyone in his path on his way to Andy. Thankfully, despite Andy having crappy foster parents, his foster sister Kyle watches his back. We get a fantastic finale in a massive good guy doll factory, which sees the ooey gooey end to Mr. Charles Lee Ray. For now. Kyle is really our only new memorable character here, though there's plenty of side characters who are fun to watch die.
You need to transfer your soul into my body.
Wrong again, wimp. I got some fresh meat lined up and I'm not gonna let you spoil it, not this time.
Tyler.
Yeah. Just think, Chucky's gonna be a bro.
Just 1 year later, Child's Play 3 released to theaters, and you'll notice that Andy has changed quite a bit. He's been shipped off to a military school, and of course, Chucky follows him. And how did Chucky manage to come back from being a pile of goo? Why, his blood mixed in with the liquid rubber, of course. Chucky hunts down Andy, but actually reveals himself to young Tyler, who's also at the academy. I'm sure you know how this is going to go. Chucky tries his best to take over Tyler's body, but Andy ain't having none of that. Chucky is then cut into little teeny pieces. We'll list Andy Barclay for this one because he's played by a whole new actor and almost feels like a different person. And I always get a kick out of this barber.
Come on, baby. Ain't big enough to take care of a woman like you.
Ain't the size that counts, asshole. It's what you do with it.
In 1998, Ronnie Yu joined the series and changed the direction of the franchise with Bride of Chucky. Taking a decidedly more cartoonish approach, Chucky had an updated look as a result of the last movie, as well as a brand new partner, Tiffany, played by the wonderful Jennifer Tilly. It's more of a road movie featuring Jade and Jesse as they're in a bit of a Romeo and Juliet situation.
I give him 6 months. 3 if she gains weight.
Chucky and Tiffany want to take over their bodies, but they need Chucky's old corpse in order to do it. This is easily the most fun film of the franchise and really took it in a different direction, which continued to this day. The movie even ends with a little tease of the progeny of the two killer dolls. Tiffany, as played by Jennifer Tilly, is an absolute revelation and the only person that could have possibly stood up next to Brad Dourif. She is just fantastic. And then we get John Ritter in a fun little role as the police chief.
Not violence. Violins. Violins are bad. That screechy music's gonna ruin the goddamn country.
Springboarding off the ending of the prior entry, Seed of Chucky came to us in 2004. To say that this one goes a little off the rails would be selling it short. This movie is batshit insane and they go full Hollywood. We've got a transgender doll, Chucky killing Britney Spears, and the inclusion of the real Jennifer Tilly. The movie seems to be more and more about moments than any overarching story, paying no mind to the many coincidences that would need to happen to bring all the characters into one place. Long story short, Chucky and Tiffany become parents, but there's a fundamental difference when it comes to raising the kids. So it does not go well. In the end, Tiffany is able to take over Jennifer Tilly's body, while Glenn and Glenda are transferred into two small children. Glenn or Glenda are absolute maniacs and bring a very different feel to the world of Child's Play. John Waters also shows up as a sleazy reporter and is one of the highlights. Oh, and Redman is in this too.
You know, you remind me a lot of Andy Barkley. He was a whiny little bitch just like you.
After a bit of a break, Don Mancini brought the series back to its basics with Curse of Chucky in 2013. This would appear to serve as a soft reboot, taking Chucky back to a non-disfigured doll, and going back to the concept of Chucky terrorizing a singular family. The cinematography is the slickest of the series, and is also the scariest since the original. We are introduced to Nika, who is wheelchair-bound and one of the more interesting people in the franchise. It's eventually revealed that she's the daughter of Charles Lee Ray, which, given that Fiona Dourif is actually Brad Dourif's daughter, is pretty damn cool. Of course, by the end, it's revealed that this film actually is canon with the rest of the franchise, and Tiffany is the one that sent Chucky there in the first place. We even get a nice little cameo from a much older Andy. Nika is easily one of the best characters the franchise has ever given birth to, so she's definitely a standout from here on out.
Welcome to the cult, pal. Thanks, you guys are the best.
2017 saw the release of Cult of Chucky from Don Mancini, and this is where the series really goes off the rails. We've got Chucky terrorizing Nika as she's been placed in a mental ward due to the events of Curse, which they're blaming on her. Chucky shows up and we actually get multiple of him, which means there's quite a bit of murder going on here. Still, it doesn't really result in much, though it does end with Nika being possessed by Chucky, who rides off with Tiffany. Like I told you, this movie is off the rails. And while there isn't really anyone new that's worth mentioning from this film, we did get the return of awesome people like Andy and Kyle.
It's pickle time.
Jane! Ow!
Nobody hurts my best buddy.
Then, just 2 years later, the Child's Play remake was brought into the world. This would have nothing to do with the films that we've been talking about, and instead is just a remake of the original script. MGM had the rights and wanted to see if they could create their own franchise. So they did so with Aubrey Plaza as the mom, and a much more technological Chucky doll. Oh, and he's voiced by Mark Hamill. Yes, that Mark Hamill. Most people aren't fans of this, and while I think it has potential if it didn't have the Child's Play name attached, changing so much about Chucky just didn't work. As far as characters, there's not anyone that's really memorable in this one. I guess you could say Chucky himself, but even then, it completely pales in comparison to the Dourif version.
What would Martha Stewart say?
Fuck Martha Stewart!
By now, I'm sure you're asking, Tyler, what can I watch and what can I skip? Well, I've got the lowdown for you. First up, for some essential viewing, we've got Child's Play, Child's Play 2, and Bride of Chucky. Then, if you have time, check out Child's Play 3 and Curse of Chucky. Then, you won't be missing out on much if you skip Seed of Chucky, Cult of Chucky, or the Child's Play remake.
We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.
There's a lot to like when it comes to the Child's Play franchise. They get absolutely ridiculous at times, but what else would you expect from a killer doll movie? It's doing better than that other franchise. Even though the Child's Play remake was a dud, that doesn't mean Charles Lee Ray isn't still around. USA and Sci-Fi's Chucky is about to start its second season, and it already blew audiences away with its first. The show expanded upon the mythos and kept itself more grounded than some of the later entries. Plus, with the inclusion of so many characters from the past, it fits right in with the rest of the franchise. Which, with Mancini at the helm, isn't exactly a surprise. Whether or not we get to see Chucky and Tiffany up on the big screen again will be up to audiences. If the television show continues its success, I could easily see us getting another feature-length entry. Regardless, I'm just happy we still have plenty of Chucky content to go around.
Don't fuck with the Chuck.